Picture this. You're standing in your grandmother's living room, surrounded by your entire family as your own cousin, someone you trusted like a brother, accuses you of being a thief. The evidence is planted in your bag. Everyone believes him. Your reputation crumbles in seconds. But what he didn't know was that every lie, every manipulation, every cruel smile was being recorded by cameras he never saw coming. I'm Emma, and this is the story of how my cousin, Eric, tried to destroy me with a single devastating lie and how the truth buried him instead. Drop a comment telling me where you're watching from. And if you've ever been betrayed by family, hit that like button and subscribe to Mortal Revenge. Because what you're about to hear will change how you think about trust, patience, and perfect timing. Eric and I grew up as more than cousins, we were best friends. Only 11 months apart, we spent every summer together at our grandparents' farm, built tree houses, shared secrets, and covered for each other. When we got caught sneaking cookies before dinner. But somewhere between childhood and adulthood, we became different people. I chose the steady path engineering degree, modest job, small apartment, savings account. Eric chose shortcuts, charm school dropouts, get-rich-quick schemes, and an endless rotation of opportunities that somehow always required other people's money. The family loved Eric's charisma. He could make our grandmother laugh until she cried, convince our uncles to lend him cash, and somehow make his failures sound like temporary setbacks rather than patterns. Me, I was the responsible one, the boring one, the one who always did what was expected and never asked for anything. I should have realized that in Eric's mind, that made me the perfect target. The call came on a Tuesday morning. Our grandmother wanted the whole family to gather for a special dinner, not just a meal, but a ceremony to honor our grandfather's memory and discuss some family matters related to his estate. Grandpa had passed the year before, leaving behind more than anyone expected. A successful small business, some solid investments, and most importantly, 40 acres of prime land just outside our growing city. With development moving outward, that land was worth a fortune. The dinner was set for Saturday night at Grandma's house. Everyone would be there, parents, aunts, uncles, cousins. The air was thick with anticipation and barely concealed greed. Eric called me that week, his voice unusually friendly. "Hey, Emma, you excited about Saturday? Grandpa always liked you best, you know. Wouldn't be surprised if you came out ahead." Something in his tone made my stomach tighten, but I brushed it off. After all, he was family. Saturday evening arrived with the kind of tension that makes your skin crawl. Everyone was being extra. Nice to Grandma, extra complimentary about her cooking, extra interested in family stories. Eric arrived late, as usual, with apologies and charm. He worked the room like a politician, making everyone laugh, asking about their kids, remembering details that made him seem caring. I watched him operate and felt something I'd never felt before, unease. There was something calculated about his performance. Like he was setting up chess pieces for a game only he understood. The first surprise came when Grandma announced that Grandpa had left personal letters for each family. Remember, not legal documents, just final thoughts and small keepsakes. She brought out an old wooden box that had been his, filled with sealed envelopes bearing our names in his careful handwriting. "I thought we'd open these together," she said, her voice thick with emotion. He spent months writing them before he passed. The box sat in the center of the coffee table like a sacred object. Everyone leaned forward, eager to receive their grandfather's final words. That's when Uncle Jim opened the box and frowned. "That's strange," he said, counting the envelopes. "One's missing." The room fell silent as Uncle Jim recounted the envelopes. Every family member was accounted for, except one, mine. "Emma's envelope isn't here," Uncle Jim announced, confusion clear in his voice. Grandma looked genuinely puzzled. "That's impossible. I saw it just this morning when I checked the box." The family began murmuring, looking around the room as if the envelope might have fallen somewhere. I felt my face flush with embarrassment, though I had no idea why. That's when Eric struck. "You know," he said slowly, as if the thought was just occurring to him. "Emma was standing by that box. Earlier when she went to get her jacket, all eyes turned to me. I felt like a deer caught in headlights. I walked past it to get to the closet," I said. "I didn't touch anything." Eric shrugged, his expression carefully neutral. "I'm not saying you did. I'm just saying that's when it could have gone missing." The seed was planted. I could see it in their faces, the slight shift from confusion to suspicion. Why would Emma take her own letter early? Aunt Martha asked. Eric's response was devastating in its simplicity. Maybe she thought Grandpa left her money or something valuable. Maybe she wanted to check it privately first. The accusation hung in the air like smoke. I felt the room's energy shift against me, suspicion spreading, from person to person like a virus. "I didn't take anything," I said, my voice stronger than I felt. Why would I steal my own letter? But Eric was ready for that too. "Look, I don't want to believe it either. Emma's like a sister to me, but he paused dramatically. If you didn't take it, then where is it?" Uncle Jim cleared his throat. "Maybe we should check Emma's things, just to eliminate the possibility." My heart hammered against my ribs. "Fine," I said. "Check everything. I have nothing to hide." My jacket was hanging in the closet. Uncle Jim patted down the pockets, nothing. My car keys, wallet, phone all clean. Then Eric, playing the reluctant detective, said quietly, "What about your bag?" My messenger bag sat in the corner where I'd left it when I arrived. Uncle Jim walked over, unzipped it, and reached inside. His face changed as his fingers found something. Slowly, he pulled out an envelope. My envelope, with my name written in Grandpa's handwriting. The gasp that went through the room felt like a physical blow. Grandma's hand flew to her mouth. My mother's eyes filled with tears of disappointment. Eric shook his head sadly. I really hoped I was wrong. The silence that followed was the loudest sound I'd ever heard. 30 years of family trust evaporated in an instant. "Emma!" My father's voice was barely a whisper. Why? I couldn't speak. My throat had closed completely. This was impossible. I hadn't taken the envelope, which meant I looked at Eric, really looked at him. And for just a split second, I saw something that made my blood freeze, the faintest hint of a smirk. He had planned this. Every word, every gesture, every perfectly timed suggestion. He had stolen my envelope and planted it in my bag. But who would believe me now? The evidence was literally in Uncle Jim's hands. "I think," Eric said softly, "we should give Emma a chance to explain. Maybe there's a misunderstanding." The fake compassion in his voice made me sick. He was offering me a chance to confess, to beg, forgiveness, to cement his narrative forever. Instead, I did something he didn't expect. I stood up calmly and looked at each family member in turn. "I didn't take that envelope," I said clearly. "Someone put it in my bag to make me look guilty. And I'm going to prove it." Eric's smirk faltered for just a moment. "Emma, come on. The evidence is right there." "Evidence can be planted," I said. "And lies always leave traces." I picked up my bag and headed for the door. "I'll be back when I can prove what really happened tonight." As I walked out, I heard Eric's voice behind me, dripping with false concern. "I hope she gets the help she needs. This is really sad to watch." But I was already planning. Because Eric had made one crucial mistake. He didn't know about Grandma's new security cameras. I drove home in a haze of rage and humiliation, replaying every moment of the evening. Eric's performance had been flawless, the concerned cousin reluctantly pointing out inconsistencies, the sad resignation when the evidence was found. But one detail kept nagging at me. 3 months earlier, Grandma had mentioned installing security cameras after a break-in scare in her neighborhood. She'd been proud of her tech-savvy grandson who helped her set them up, Eric's younger brother, who worked in IT. If those cameras covered the living room, they would have recorded everything. At 6 a.m., I called Grandma. "Emma," her voice was tired, strained. "Honey, I don't know what to say about last night. Grandma, I need to ask you something important. Those security cameras you had installed, do they record the living room?" A pause. "Yes, they record everything 24 hours a day. Why?" My heart started racing. "I need to see the footage from last night. It will prove I didn't take that envelope." "Emma, I saw Jim pull it out of your bag with my own eyes. I know how it looks. But someone put it there. The cameras will show who." Another long pause. "Come over. We'll look together." Grandma's hands shook as she helped me access the camera system on her computer. The interface was simple, just click on the date and time range you wanted to review. We fast-forwarded to the relevant time period, 7:30 p.m., when the family had gathered around the coffee table. At first, the footage showed exactly what I remembered, everyone laughing, talking, gathered around the wooden box. Then Uncle Jim opened it and began counting the envelopes. "There," Grandma whispered. That's when we realized yours was missing. But I was focused on a different part of the screen. "Grandma, can you rewind to about 15 minutes? Before that, when people were still arriving and settling in?" She clicked and dragged the timeline backwards. The footage showed family members mingling, getting drinks, finding seats, and there was Eric. At 7:12 p.m., While everyone else was distracted by conversation, Eric casually walked over to the coffee table. He glanced around to make sure no one was watching, then quickly opened the wooden box. "Oh my God," Grandma breathed. On screen, Eric's hand darted into the box and emerged with an envelope, my envelope. He slipped it smoothly into his jacket pocket, closed the box, and walked away as if nothing had happened. But we weren't done. I fast-forwarded to 7:25 p.m., just before the discovery of the missing envelope. The camera captured Eric walking past my bag, which was sitting in the corner. Again, he looked around. Carefully, when he was certain no one was watching, he reached into his jacket, pulled out my envelope, and dropped it into my bag. The evidence was undeniable. Crystal clear, time-stamped. Grandma's face went white. He did this on purpose. He framed you. Sitting in Grandma's kitchen with the smoking gun evidence on her laptop. I had to make a decision. My first instinct was to call Eric immediately, to scream at him, to demand he confess to everyone. But that would be emotional, reactive. Eric would find a way to spin it, to claim the footage was misleading or that I had somehow manipulated it. No, if I was going to destroy him, it had to be complete and public, with no room for escape. "Grandma," I said, "I need you to call everyone back. Tell them there's been a development in the situation, and you need the whole family here tomorrow for an important discussion." She nodded, still in shock. "What are you planning?" "Justice," I said simply. That night, I made copies of the footage. I burned it to multiple DVDs, uploaded it to a secure cloud account, and saved it to 2 different USB drives. I also called my cousin, Jake Eric's brother, the one who had installed the cameras, and asked him to come to tomorrow's meeting as a witness to the system's authenticity. I wanted Eric to hang himself with his own words before I revealed the truth. Sunday evening, the family gathered again at Grandma's house. The atmosphere was different, heavier, more uncomfortable. Everyone knew they were there because of my theft, and their faces showed a mixture of disappointment and awkward sympathy. Eric arrived fashionably late again, playing the role of the reluctant family member forced to deal with an unpleasant situation. "So," he said, settling into his chair, "what's this about? Has Emma decided to come clean?" I smiled calmly. "Actually, Eric, I have something to show everyone. Something that will clear up exactly what happened last night." His confidence flickered for just a moment, but he recovered quickly. "Emma, I know this is hard to accept, but denying it won't help." "I'm not denying anything," I interrupted. "I'm proving everything." I nodded to Grandma, who connected her laptop to the TV. The security camera footage appeared on the large screen, paused at 7:10 p.m. "Last night, Eric accused me of stealing my own envelope from Grandpa's box. He suggested that the evidence finding it in my bag proved I was guilty." Eric's face was stone, but I could see the slight tension in his jaw. "We all saw Jim pull it out of your bag, Emma. You're right, we did. But what we didn't see was how it got there in the first place." I hit play. The room fell silent as the footage rolled. At first, it just showed normal family gathering, people talking, laughing, moving around. Then at 7:12 p.m., Eric appeared on screen, walking casually toward the coffee table. "There you are, Eric," I said, pausing the video. "Watch carefully, everyone." I resumed playback. On screen, Eric glanced around, opened the wooden box, and smoothly palmed my envelope. The gasps were audible. Aunt Martha's hand flew to her mouth. Uncle Jim leaned forward, squinting at the screen. "That can't be right," Eric said, his voice tight. "The angle makes it look like you're stealing my envelope." I finished. "Let's see what happens next." I fast-forwarded to 7:25 p.m. The screen showed Eric walking past my bag, looking around to ensure he wasn't observed, then dropping the envelope inside. The silence in the room was deafening. The timestamp shows this happened just minutes before you suggested we should look around for the missing envelope, I said calmly. "Just minutes before you suggested checking my bag." Eric's face had gone pale, but he was still fighting. This could be edited. Digital footage can be manipulated. "Eric," Jake spoke up from the corner. I'd asked him to remain quiet until this moment. I installed this system. It's a continuous recording stored on a secure server with tamper-proof timestamps. There's no way to edit footage without leaving digital fingerprints. And I can verify that these timestamps are authentic. The net was closing. Eric looked around the room at the faces of his family, no longer sympathetic, no longer charmed by his usual charisma. The silence stretched for what felt like hours. Finally, my father spoke. "Eric, what do you have to say about this?" For the first time in my life, I saw Eric completely speechless. His mouth opened and closed like a fish, gasping for air. There must be some mistake. The only mistake, I said quietly, was thinking you could frame me and get away with it. Then something interesting happened. Eric's composure finally cracked completely. You don't understand, he burst out. Everyone always talks about how responsible Emma is, how trustworthy she is. Meanwhile, I'm drowning in debt, my business failed, I can barely make rent. And you all act like she's some kind of saint while I'm the family's screw-up. The confession was pouring out of him now, years of resentment and jealousy finally exposed. I thought if I could make her look bad, maybe you'd see that your precious Emma isn't perfect. Maybe you'd realize that I deserve some consideration too. Grandma's voice, when she finally spoke, was barely a whisper. So you tried to destroy your cousins. Reputation over jealousy? Eric deflated like a punctured balloon. I didn't mean for it to go this far. I needed, but the damage was done. He had admitted it all, in front of everyone, on camera. The family's reaction was swift and decisive. Eric's parents, who had always enabled his behavior, looked mortified. His siblings distanced themselves immediately. The uncle who had found the envelope in my bag apologized profusely. But the most satisfying moment came from Grandma herself. Eric, she said, her voice steady despite her obvious pain, you need to leave my house. And until you can sincerely apologize and make amends for what you've done, you're not welcome at family gatherings. Eric tried to protest, to argue, to charm his way out of consequences one more time. But the spell was broken. No one was buying his act anymore. He left that night in disgrace. His reputation in the family destroyed by his own words and actions. 3 months later, Grandma finalized Grandpa's will. The reading was small and quiet, just immediate. Family, with Eric notably absent. The surprise wasn't the money or the investments. It was the letter Grandpa had actually left me, not in the wooden box, but sealed with his attorney. In it, he wrote about recognizing my character, my integrity, and my quiet strength. He'd left me the largest portion of his estate, including the valuable land, because he trusted me to use it wisely and to take care of the family when needed. I've watched you handle yourself with grace under pressure, the letter read. I've seen you choose honesty, even when it cost you, and loyalty even when it wasn't returned. These qualities will serve you well in life. Reading those words, I finally understood why Eric had been so desperate to discredit me. Somehow he had suspected or learned about Grandpa's plans. The envelope in the wooden box had just been a way to plant doubt about my character before the real inheritance was revealed. But his plan had backfired spectacularly. Instead of making me look untrustworthy, he had proven, beyond doubt, that I was exactly the person Grandpa believed me to be. The months that followed taught me several important lessons about family, trust, and revenge. First, that blood relation doesn't guarantee loyalty. Eric and I shared the same grandparents, the same childhood memories, the same family values, supposedly. But when his own insecurities and failures became too much to bear, he chose to tear me down rather than build himself up. Second, that patience and evidence are more powerful than anger and accusations. If I had confronted Eric directly without proof, it would have been my word against his. By staying calm and gathering irrefutable evidence, I let his own actions condemn him. Third, that sometimes the best revenge is simply letting someone reveal who they really are. I didn't destroy Eric's reputation, he did that himself with his jealousy, his lies, and his eventual confession. Eric's fall from family grace was more complete than I could have imagined. Word of his deception spread quickly through our extended family network, and the story followed him wherever he went. His business contacts, many of whom were family friends, began to question his integrity. His romantic relationships suffered as his reputation for manipulation became known. Even his own parents, who had always been his biggest defenders, began to see the pattern of behavior they had been enabling for years. 6 months after the security footage revelation, Eric reached out to me, not with an apology, but with a request for money. His financial situation had deteriorated further, and he was facing eviction from his apartment. I declined, not out of cruelty, but out of clarity. Enabling Eric's irresponsibility would help neither him nor anyone else. Some lessons can only be learned through consequences. With Grandpa's inheritance, I was able to make some long-dreamed-of changes in my life. I quit my corporate engineering job and started my own consulting firm. I bought a house with enough land for a workshop and a garden. I established a small scholarship. fund at the local community college for students from struggling families. But more than the financial freedom, I gained something more valuable: absolute clarity about who I was and what I stood for. The experience with Eric had tested every aspect of my character, my honesty, my patience, my integrity, under pressure, my ability to seek justice without seeking vengeance. I had passed that test and I knew it. The family gatherings that followed were smaller but more genuine. Without Eric's manipulation and drama, relationships became more authentic. Conversations became more honest. Trust became more meaningful because it was earned rather than assumed. A year later, at Christmas dinner, Uncle Jim pulled me aside. "I owe you an apology, Emma. Not just for doubting you that night, but for not seeing Eric's true character sooner. Your grandfather would have been proud of how you handled everything." That conversation made me realize something important. The security cameras hadn't just captured Eric's deception, they had captured my character. The way I had responded to false accusation, gathered evidence patiently, and revealed the truth without malice had shown the family exactly who I was. In trying to destroy me, Eric had actually validated everything Grandpa had believed about both of us. The irony was perfect. Eric's plan to make himself look better by making me look worse had accomplished the exact opposite. He had revealed his own character as clearly as any camera could have. Done.
If there's a lesson in all of this, it's simple. Truth doesn't need to be loud to be powerful. It just needs to be patient. Eric spent years building a reputation on charm and manipulation. I spent years building one on consistency and integrity. When the moment of crisis came, both reputations were tested under pressure. His crumbled mine held strong. The security camera footage was just the tool that revealed what was already there: his willingness to deceive and my commitment to truth. Sometimes the best revenge isn't what you do to someone who wrongs you. It's simply giving them enough rope to hang themselves, then stepping back and letting their own character do the rest. If this story resonated with you, drop a comment about a time when patience paid off better than anger would have. Like this video if you believe the truth always finds a way to surface. Subscribe to Mortal Revenge for more stories of justice served cold and family drama that'll make you question everything you thought you knew about loyalty. Hit that notification bell because you never know when the next story might teach you something that saves your reputation, your relationships, or your sanity. Remember, when someone tries to destroy you with lies, the most powerful response isn't to fight back with more lies. It's to let the truth speak for itself clearly, calmly, and with evidence they can't deny. Until next time, this is Emma, reminding you that sometimes the camera really is watching, karma really is taking notes, and justice really does have perfect timing.